enjoying the show? You can help others find it and enjoy it too by giving us a 5-star rating or review. If you feel like reaching out to us with a question or comment, you can send us an email at mywifetherd@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit our website at mywifethedietitian.com, as well as our social media pages. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Enjoy the show. It's Rob and Sandra from My Wife the Dietitian, and welcome to the 2024 version of Nutrition Nuggets.
Our midweek mini episode to help with quick tips for health and longevity.
That's what it's all about.
Yes.
Yeah, we're all going to live forever listening to My Wife the Dietitian.
That's right.
Or if we listen to My Wife the Dietitian.
Yes, and we'll take action too.
Well, yeah, no, it's not just listening. It's actually action and doing.
So today we're talking about 5 canned goods for your pantry and 5 to leave on the shelves at the store.
Yeah. It's funny because I learned this from Sandra a long time ago. And I used to buy, like when I was younger in my 20s, I would go shopping and I'd be like, oh yeah, the Chef Boyardee chili ready to eat, open the can and heat it. And that's perfect. There's a good dinner for me. And you know, I'd use cans of soup as sauce and all those things and the instant foods, and you just open it and heat it and serve it. And yeah, I don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's where a lot of our hidden sugars and salts and all the extra preservatives and flavorings and all that is added in those saucy type of things. And that we're going to talk about that. So let's start with the good ones, like the ones to try to include.
Yeah.
Or do you want to start with the other ones? Maybe since we already talked about the pasta.
I gave them all away already.
Yeah, well, not all, but you did allude to the Chef Boyardee or the SpaghettiO type thing. That would be one to leave at the store. Mm-hmm. And it's not so good for us at all because of those extra sauces and the sugars and it's just loaded with extras that we don't need. So that's definitely on the list, as any canned pasta like that is just a no-no.
Right. I would even say anything that's ready to serve, I'd be wary of, whether it comes in a box or a can or a cup or whatever. If it's like heat and serve, then it's probably going to be not as healthy as something that you have to make.
Maybe.
As a general kind of just...
Except for canned fruit, which is on the okay list and that's in its natural...
Yeah. I guess that's cold. Anything that's like you got to heat and serve kind of is my thinking. I'm just thinking of all those meals that are like, that fall into that category that we were kind of...
Yeah, I don't know. I might prove you wrong.
Okay.
All right. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's funny. Okay. Well, number 2 is the processed meat. So like Spam and other kind of... They're basically mechanically separated, just the dregs of the factory. Like
you mean
just
the stuff in a can, you mean?
Yeah, canned meats. Yeah, they're kind of in the same category as the it's like a processed meat, in that, like, you know, the cured meats, just not really, they don't fit into healthy eating, a healthy lifestyle. I mean, once in a while, if you have it, it's just like candy, you know, you're not going to eat candy all the time, but if you have it once in a while, okay. But with, those types of meats, I mean, they're just so full of sodium and fat, and the quality of the meat is really low. Like, because they literally are taking, it's just like hot dogs. Like, they are taking the leftover of all the good pieces of meat that is, you know, with the butcher.
Yeah, they just like mop the floor and put it in a can and
mechanically separated.
You know what's ironic is now that we're in like the generation of email and all that, spam is a thing.
Oh, right.
But it's a
term.
It's not a good thing. And so now there's this meat stuff that really isn't a good thing either. I don't know why they named it that. It's like, to me, that always turned me off.
I think it was around for World War II.
It's been around forever.
Yeah.
But I wonder what the word means or why they named it that. Right now?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, look it up. You know those meatballs in the Chef Boyardee or the SpaghettiOs? They're actually chicken, and it's the mechanically separated meat that's not even the meatball. It's not like a beef.
What meatballs are those? The ones that we eat?
You weren't listening.
No, I was reading. I was trying to learn
I
about
said,
Spam.
oh, you don't have to answer then. It's the SpaghettiOs and the Chef Boyardee. You know, the meatballs are in those.
Mhm.
Yeah, those are chicken.
Okay, I've done my little Wikipedia search here. Spam apparently stands for spiced ham.
Oh,
I knew it would have something to do with that, but still, it doesn't. I mean, it's in a can. I mean, it's not going to be the real deal. It's going to be some, just imitation blah. Yeah, and it's not good for you. So there's that too.
right. Okay.
What?
Well, fish is fine, and we're talking about that next.
No, but fish, it's the real deal. They take the real thing and they put it in a can. So that's one thing. But this is like some processed, gelatinized meat-ish product.
True.
That they, like, you don't open it and there's like slices of ham in there.
Yes.
You know, that's, All right, what's next?
The next thing is the fruit that's got all the syrups.
Oh, right. So this is another lesson I learned from Sandra is whether it has syrup or it has, well, what is it, packed with water or fruit juice or something?
Yeah, if it's packed with water or its own juice, then that's a better option than the ones that are loaded with the syrup, like the heavy syrup.
And those ones are always cheaper, I've noticed. So it's worth it to pay a little bit more and get the ones that aren't packed in syrup, which is basically just getting extra sugar that you don't need.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times it's with the high fructose corn syrup. So we talked about that in another episode way back, and just how that has been linked to many problems with type 2 diabetes, like developing different chronic diseases. It's not a natural food.
No, it's no bueno. It's one we want to avoid. So it's one to look for on the label. And if it has it, then you put that one back on the shelf.
All right. The next one is the soups that are like just loaded with just a regular canned soup. If it's not a low sodium one, it's got a lot of salt. So it's a lot of added salt. And if it's got more than 15% daily value of sodium on the label, you know that it's really high in salt.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Noodles isn't a canned good, but it's a similar kind of thing. Like the amount of sodium in Mr. Noodles or canned soups is just so high because that's where the flavor is. So if you make soup from home, then you can control the ingredients and you can control how much salt you're putting in it. So the regular soups are on the list for one of the worst canned foods.
Yeah, they're super salty.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the low sodium ones now. I think that they've, obviously the soup companies realized that their soups were not as healthy as they could be. And
it's probably consumer demand, just
healthier.
People are pushing for lower sodium options. It's just the amount of people with high blood pressure is alarming, and a lot of people don't know they have the blood pressure of like 120/80 or higher, which puts them at risk for many problems with their health, including stroke and heart disease. And it's like a ticking time bomb. So if we eat foods that are lower in sodium, especially the canned goods, then that will help with not having too much salt
Right, of
in
course.
our diet.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, what's the next one?
So the next one are like the pork and beans that are loaded with sweeteners and sugars, and sometimes like the little tiny bit of pork if it's,
Yeah, the little tiny bit, super tiny.
It's just better to make your own or get canned beans, which is on the good list, without the sauces, and then just make your own homemade pork and beans if you want, or beans with tomato sauce, or however you want to do it. But the kind that are ready to eat are generally pretty high in sugar and salt.
I was never a fan of that. I mean, as far as eating beans goes, I never really liked the
Texture?
sweet ones.
Oh, the sweet one.
Yeah, I mean, they're okay, but I mean, now that we eat beans more often, there's so many other ways to eat them that are more enjoyable than pork and beans.
Yeah. And that actually leads to the things to include in your list for canned foods, which is the kidney beans or any of the beans, like the chickpeas, the canned lentils, which ones do we have?
Well, I've been buying white beans lately. They're like big beans that I make gigantes with, which is my new thing. Which is just beans and tomato sauce and some veggies, and it's super good.
Oh yeah,
Like,
it's a delicious recipe,
good.
Rob. I love those.
And it's easy to make too. There's like
Greek.
just a couple of ingredients, and then you just cook it all up and then stick it in the oven to bake it for a little bit. But yeah, so but you want big beans for that. So I've been using like big white. Is it white kidney beans or are they just white?
Might be lima beans, or they might be.
I think they're called white kidney beans because there's red kidney beans too, right?
Yeah.
And then black beans we use a lot. We use the other ones.
Pinto
beans. That's what refried beans are made out of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of those. And then you can get the kind that have 3 bean mix or even more than 3 in the actual one can.
Oh, right. And that's a case of it's good to go right out of the can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So beans obviously is a good one. And like we always say, don't forget to wash the beans. They come in a bit of it's just wet it's wet in the can. So you want to dump the can into a colander or a sieve or whatever that thing's called and rinse them. Yeah. Sandra's like, not wash, it's rinse. You don't have to like scrub the little beans or anything.
You don't have to add soap. Please don't.
Wash them all individually.
Diarrhea
No, just rinse the gucky stuff off the beans and then add it to whatever you're cooking or cook them up or however you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are, so that's a source of, well, we always talk about 4 times a week, try to include beans in your recipes. So in your salads and your soups, your stews, your pasta, your lasagna, you can add some beans into the sauce there. So any way you can sneak more beans into your weekly menu for your family and yourself, that will help you live longer and age backwards.
Age backwards. Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, beans are so healthy for us. Good source of plant-based protein. And the next one I'm going to talk about is fish, which are so good for omega-3 fatty acids, anti-inflammatory, so good for our brain and our mood. It's a food and mood kind of food. So the sardines are excellent because they're the small fish with very little mercury, and they have the bones, which is the absorbable calcium. And then the salmon is a really good. Remember what's the smash? The
smash. You do this about once a month. We go through this. Well, sardines, mackerel, anchovies, salmon, and herring.
You got it.
There you go.
Yeah. So a couple of those ones are canned. I don't know if I guess I have seen herring in a can.
Oh yeah, I buy it all the time. It's in that long can, and they're like smoked or they're kippered, and they like spicy flavor ones. I love them.
The cat is like eating my feet, and I think he thinks I'm a tuna fish or something.
Oh, must.
Stop it. Anyways, yeah, so that's another thing. Don't worry too much about the sodium when it comes to the fish, canned fish. It is a little bit higher in salt, but it is such a good for you food. And if you try to include fish twice a week, I think using canned fish is a good way to do it. In addition to baking, white fish or having a nice salmon fillet, but canned fish are a wonderful way to include fish in the week.
Yeah, it's kind of one of my go-tos for my something with crackers snack if I'm trying to get away from cheese. Can of oysters or mussels or whatever kind of
sardines,
fish. Yeah, they're good with as a little snack on something else.
The mackerel are pretty rich, eh? They're oily and
they're really good, and they're starting to flavor them too. I don't think they used to do that. Like, I think there's a lot of people who are like, ooh, canned fish. That's, because straight up, they aren't like that. They're fishy, if you're just eating a can of regular sardines. But the flavored ones are really good. So if you haven't been a fan of canned fish, give them a try now, because if the flavored ones make a huge difference.
It might be a way, like a gateway to start eating the canned fish. I mean, in theory, if you're trying to really reduce your salt, then you could rinse the fish before you eat it. But for the general population, that's probably not needed.
All right, what's next?
vegetables. So canned vegetables, it's a good way to get extra potassium in our diet because a lot of people in society don't get enough potassium-rich foods. And partly we know that people are not eating their 5 servings of vegetables a day, and that's a big way to get our potassium. So you could include green beans, like wax beans that are in a can, and put them in a stew, or that is a way to get the balance back with potassium and sodium. And we did a whole episode on reducing your sodium and increasing your potassium naturally in your diet.
Mm-hmm. I've been starting to use a lot more canned vegetables with things that I'm making. Chili is one of the things that I've been making, but even if you're making a sauce for pasta, it's so easy just to open a can and throw. I buy canned mushrooms because you open it and you throw it in and it's done, versus raw mushrooms, which require you to wash them and cut them and cook them. And if you want something quick, it's good to have a can of mushrooms, and they're like $1 a can. They're really cheap, and they're already sliced, or you can have them whole. So that's a nice one. Corn's another one. Frozen corn too I use, but just having those.
The canned goods, the corn is on my list. That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. They're nice. Just like Sandra said, like I wasn't a fan of growing up and the vegetable for the night was like canned peas or something.
Yeah.
It was just like, ugh, but adding canned vegetables to your stew or your sauce or your chili or whatever it is you're making. I mean, it's just an easy addition, and to get those vegetables in.
There you go. That's the key, is getting the vegetables in. And I love that you're cooking so creatively, and you
just love that I'm cooking, period.
Yeah, totally. Of course.
Like, whatever. I don't care what you make as long as I'm not doing it.
And you're including more vegetables. It's awesome. I love it.
You're lucky that I cook well, though.
I know. I know that for sure.
I'm lucky that you enjoy my creativity, because I don't think everybody would, because you're like, well, what are we eating tonight? And I'm like, I don't know. I just grabbed a bunch of stuff and threw it in the pot, and it is what it is. A lot of people wouldn't be down for that, but you're always game. So that's good.
Well, it goes both ways, because I have some interesting creations too.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's fun. It's how we roll.
Yeah, that's right. The other kind of interesting vegetable I wanted to mention, artichoke.
I love artichokes.
Canned artichokes are really high in vitamin C, like super high.
Okay, I didn't realize that. And they're a vegetable, right?
Yeah.
They're like a root vegetable.
Yeah, well, they kind of grow like broccoli. Like they grow like up out of the ground, and then they're really ornamental type of vegetable. Like the plant is really pretty.
And like a big bulb or something.
Yeah, it's like a purple flower, and they grow year after year and get more interesting as they get more mature. But the artichoke, it's the heart, and a lot of times they're marinated in oil.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because then you're going to get some of those beneficial phytochemicals that are fat soluble, that you're going to be able to absorb them if there's a little bit of oil in there.
Yeah. That's another thing that I add to my pasta sauce.
Yes.
Because it's just, you get this little bite. It's like when you add feta to something, and the feta really stands out.
Yeah.
The artichoke has got such a unique kind of tangy flavor to it that when you put it in a sauce, especially if there's not a lot of other things going on.
And a texture, not water chestnut texture, but it's kind of like a little bit of crunch texture. Like the texture is interesting.
Like a pickle kind of crunch is not as crunchy, but yeah, no, it's nice. It's because I mean, what else do you do? You're not just going to eat them. Well, I guess you could. They're tasty, but
yeah, they're good in salads for sure.
Yeah, they're good in salads, or just like I said, adding to your pasta sauce.
Yeah,
I like adding it. I like making pasta without any sauce, and you've just cooked it in some like garlic, and then you're using your ingredients to create the flavors, like your artichokes and olive oil, and maybe some sun-dried tomatoes, and
we have fresh basil and cilantro and dill.
Oh, did you get cilantro?
And oregano.
Nice.
The grocery store had actual plants in the winter, which is interesting, that are basil plants and cilantro and all these great herbs. So I love adding herbs to the cooking.
Absolutely.
Makes it flavorful, and you're getting some little beneficial phytochemicals and antioxidants from those green leafy vegetables.
Yeah, you got it.
The other one is beets. So that's another vegetable, but canned beets, any kind of beets that you can buy that any way to get a beet in is good because they're so good for you. So you can't beat a beet.
You cannot.
Or you can because you used to be a musician.
Yeah.
Or you are a musician. You beat a beet all the time.
I do beat a beet. Yeah.
I just made that up.
How do you make a banana wrap?
How?
This is my cheesy musician joke. You give it a beat.
That would be good. Banana and beet in a wrap.
Do you think?
Well, yeah. It's kind of like banana and jam or banana and berries. It's like bright. And that's the thing with beets. They're loaded with those polyphenols, like the bright colors. And those bright colors mean they have very important protective elements for our health. Mm-hmm. And they actually help the longevity genes because they help with the antioxidants and like the free radicals. And we need to get more. That's why eating at least five vegetables, different vegetables a day will give you those important antioxidants that mop up the free radicals that help with our cells and help with our longevity and our health.
That's all important stuff.
It really is.
Yep.
And I think that's the problem, though. A lot of people just do not get the vegetables in. For whatever reason, it's a difficult thing to try to, I guess, prep them and wash them and peel them and cook them. And, but if you can have a veggie tray that you've bought from the store that's already ready to eat, if you recognize the vegetable as something that's come from the ground or pulled off a tree, that is the type of food you want, that you recognize from when it was growing. That is more food we need. We need to eat those foods.
Spam is the complete opposite.
That's right.
Oh, this is pork. This is ham.
I think it's kind of pink.
How do they get it in the can like that?
I think they add food coloring to make it look that color of pink. Anyways, yeah. So I got off track a little bit because of
always.
I'm really passionate about beets, and so the other one that we will give you another really beneficial phytochemical, and it actually fits in. I guess the vegetable is pumpkin. So pumpkin, not the dessert type filling, but you can get pumpkin in a can that you can make different pumpkin dishes with, and it's loaded with beta carotene and those protective phytochemicals. So that's another one. If you do like pumpkin flavored foods, then that's something to include in your pantry.
Is it like mashed?
Yes.
Consistency?
Yeah.
Oh, never thought of that.
Yeah.
And people buy that for pumpkin pie usually?
Yes.
I wonder how else you'd use it. I wonder if it'd be neat to mix it up with mashed potatoes and have a pumpkin flavored mashed potato.
Yeah, probably. Let's try that.
Yeah, I'd be curious to.
Excellent.
We'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, and you can make maybe pumpkin
pancakes.
Yes, I've heard of those.
Potato cakes.
That's true.
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
Because those are those orange vegetables that are so good for our skin and our health and
our longevity.
Yes, anti-inflammatory food. Amazing. The other thing is, oh my God, these are so good for you. However, you can include canned tomatoes, if it's canned tomato sauce, or if it's those. Well, what do you do?
Well, both. Tomato sauce for if we're making some sort of pasta, but often I'll use the stewed tomatoes, like they're Italian flavored, seasoned,
like diced tomatoes or
diced.
stewed.
Yeah, I like the diced because then they're not big, huge chunks of tomato. They're like small diced, and it's good for. I put it in my chili. The gigantes beans that I was talking about before, that's all it is. Is I put some frozen vegetables, heat them up. I add the stewed tomatoes, and then I add the beans, mix it all up, throw it in the oven, and it's like 10 minutes later you're eating it.
I'm gonna record you while you are cooking.
You are recording me.
I know, but I want to see a visual of that.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Yeah, someday we'll get to that. So yeah, tomatoes are so good.
Do you remember what's in the tomato that makes it so unique?
Lycopene.
Yes.
Oh yeah, lycopene.
Yes, it's so good. It's so good for men, women, everybody. It's there's lots of evidence that it can help reduce the risk of prostate cancer. So a serving and a half a day of some sort of lycopene-rich food, 10 servings a week. It's really one big step into preventing prostate cancer.
Yeah, that's good to know.
I think we've done 5.
That's it?
5 of the good ones. I'm going to run through them again.
Okay, we got lots of time. It's fine.
fish. Did we start with fish or did we start with beans?
We started with beans, but you can start with fish.
Okay, beans, fish, fruit that's in its own juice, vegetables that aren't all sauced up, that are just canned vegetables, including those artichokes, those beets, corn, and pumpkin, and canned tomatoes, which is another vegetable, but it's one that we had to say separately because it's so good and it's really important to try to include that in your pantry for your meals.
You know what I like about canned vegetables is they're cheap. You just like load them up. It's not one of those things where like, oh, I don't know.
It's too expensive to eat healthy.
Yeah.
And, that's the thing with these canned foods that we're talking about. A lot of them, like you mentioned, the mushrooms are super cheap, but canned fish isn't very expensive. Canned beans aren't very expensive. The SpaghettiOs and Chef Boyardee, they're also cheap, but they're not a good idea.
They're not that cheap.
Okay.
They're like $3.50 a can for like, if it's one of those like canned meals.
Yeah. So those are the ones to leave on the shelf, to leave at the store. Don't bring them into your home. They're just not going to add any benefit to your weekly menu.
Exactly. All right. Is that it then?
That's it, Rob?
That's all we've got. All right. Well, hopefully you found this helpful. And we will have more information on our website if you want to check that out. It's mywifethedietitian.com.
I think I found the recipes that you were talking about helpful. That was awesome. The gigante, I love those.
I know. We'll try to figure out a way to get that out to everyone, either a little video like Sandra's threatening to do, or she'll just be standing in the kitchen one day filming me and I'll be like, what the heck are you doing? Put that away. And then it'll be on YouTube the next day or something. And
the naked chef.
I'm
just joking.
The not quite naked chef. Or I'll put some clothes on. I'm going to be putting this on YouTube. Yeah. I'm going to have to watch my back.
That's already been done, the naked chef.
Yeah, I'll have to come up with something different.
We'll have to ask Jamie Oliver on the show.
Yeah, he's on our like to get list.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Guests to get. He'd be fun to talk to.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that'll be our goal for the year.
Yeah, we are actually talking to a culinary medicine expert. We've talked to him and it's coming out on Monday. So that'll be a really awesome one to listen to because it's all about how he teaches doctors how to, and other healthcare professionals, how to cook for health.
Mm-hmm. He's a dietitian and a chef.
And a PhD.
And yeah, he's got a whole bunch of credentials. So yeah, that was a good interview. That'll be out next Monday.
Any kiteboards,
which is what we do. So there's that too. All right. Any questions you have for us, shoot us an email, mywifetherd@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook as well. You can also connect with us through there or leave us a comment or a thumbs up or a like or however that works. We like them all. And don't forget to rate and review the show. That always helps us too. If you feel like leaving a review, that would be helpful too.
And we have a ton of guests that we have lined up for the new year. So we'll be giving you lots of good information in the weeks to come. And I'm looking forward to connecting with all of those guests.
Mm-hmm. As well, we've got a bunch of other new things coming up that we will share with you soon too. So in the meantime, have a great week, everyone. And we will talk to you all on Monday. Thanks for joining us today on My Wife the Dietitian. If you like what you heard, don't be shy. Leave us a comment or review and be sure to share our podcast with your friends. If you'd like to hear more, hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media pages for updates, episode trailers, and other odds and ends. For more info and links on what we discussed on today's episode, check the show notes. We'll be back next week with another informative and fun-filled episode.